Hi there, I'm Dino, and welcome to my master course in English communication. I really appreciate you being here. And over the next 15 units, you're going to be joined by me to help you improve and excel your English language learning journey. Without further ado, let's get started. So, what exactly is this course about? Now, I'm going to go through the 15 units that you'll get in this course. In today's unit, we're looking at first impressions matter. Then we'll look at effective communication, mastering phone conversations, some meeting fundamentals, and how to really improve your meeting communication. We then look at presenting with impact, data visualization in business or the workplace. So if you have any data that you like to share with coworkers, managers, whoever it might be, that's a great unit for you. Furthermore, we take a look at negotiation skills and networking for success. In the second half of the course, we're looking then at business travel, such as business trips, cross-cultural communication, and then we're taking a closer look at career advancement strategies. So these next two units will be perfect for you if you're looking to get a new job, you're looking for a promotion, and how exactly to start that conversation with your boss or how to actually find the job that you're looking for. Towards the end of the course, we're looking then at remote work, team collaboration, some really key project management communication strategies. And finally, we will wrap up this course looking at AI in business English, how you can make AI work for you. And finally, some advanced business English and jargon and what exactly that really means. But don't worry about that too much for now. Focus on this unit as this is what we'll be covering in this unit. Before we get into the exact what's going to be covered in the unit, I'd like to introduce myself a little bit more to you all in case you don't know who I am and what exactly I'm about. So my name is Dino. I'm from Dublin, Ireland, which means I am Irish. I left Ireland with a business management degree in the master's, and I've been traveling ever since. I love traveling, and I've been working in Asia for over 10 years now. With that being said, that means that I've got 10 years teaching experience, both online and in person. I've helped over 5,000 students achieve their learning goals. I wrote a course with VoiceTube Taiwan, and I also co-wrote a book called English for Success. In terms of professional introductions and what exactly I'm doing right now, I'm currently a professor of English communications at the National Sun Yat-sen University here in Taiwan. On the side, I also run my own business, training companies in communications and how to excel in business and also in English communications. I also then created an education business around 5 years ago and sold that as well in 2020. So that's something that I'm so proud of that I did. Sold it 5 years ago, and it was my baby at the time, but it is no longer anymore. In my spare time, I love creating content for my followers and students to look at on Instagram, on YouTube, and if you're interested, you're more than welcome to subscribe for more. With that being said, I love to stay connected with you all. So if you do have Instagram, you can scan this QR code on the right. But if you don't, fear not, because I'm also on YouTube. And more recently, I've moved over to Rednote or Xiaohongshu for your Chinese pronunciation. So if you're interested, stay connected with me and what I'm up to each and every day. I'm also posting daily free content, reels, videos, and posts, and some of my most common mistakes that I get from my students. So don't miss that. Just a little look at some recommendations and testimonials from some of my past and previous students. So again, it's nice to know who I am, but I want to back that up with a little bit of proof by some of my students and some of the things that they have said. I'm extremely proud and also very grateful for their kind words. Let's take a look at Cicely, who's the CEO of EDG Design and Construction Company. They're based in Taipei. And I've been working with Cicely and her team for almost 6 years now. And she's an absolute pleasure to work with. And I've really helped them work with a lot of their big multinational and global clients. Moving on, we'll take a look at Jordan. I was lucky enough to meet Jordan many years ago and helped him get into his ideal university, which is the University of Hawaii in Honolulu. I also recently helped him gain an internship. So again, very happy and very proud that my students said these really nice things about me. But this just gives you a better idea of how I help my students. Next, we have Rich, who's a senior operations manager at Lydon in Taiwan. Again, helping him across many different cases and projects that he has, particularly dealing with markets in the US, Germany, and Canada. Next up is Brian, who some of you may know as a music producer and artist. I helped Brian to, I guess, communicate more effectively with some of his international clients and also help him negotiate better deals for his artists. Finally, we have Dave, who's a senior banking manager here at First Bank Taiwan. I helped him and his team improve their customer service, but also help him personally on his leadership skills. So those are some of the past and current students that I work with, and it's a great way to share their testimonials and recommendations with you. Before we get started into the actual bones of this unit, I want to ask you all a question. And the question is, are you ready? And you're probably thinking, well, Dino, of course I'm ready. I bought your course. I'm here to learn. I'm ready. Yes, that might be true, but are you really ready? Because I really hope that you can take action on what you learn in this course. And there's a key point or a key feature that I see from a lot of my students, and that is that they act right away when they learn something. So the best language learners, they always act right away. They never delay or they never wait before they act. So my question to you is, are you ready? Are you ready to commit? If so, shout out yes right now. I know it sounds weird, strange, but just say yes, you are ready. Tell yourself that you're ready, because I see it so many times that students, myself included, I buy a course and I never even look at it. I never even take the time to listen or watch or read the course. And so that's my question to you. I really hope that you can say yes and you're ready. Did you say yes? All right. Now that that's over with, let's get started. If you are looking for feedback or have questions, feel free to message me in Line app. If you don't have the Line app, I will also communicate with you through email or whichever contact window you prefer. Here's a look at what exactly we'll cover today. We're going to look at the importance of first impressions, introductions and greetings, a little bit of networking, some small talk, cultural etiquette, which is like cultural ways or manners based on different countries, and finally then some key phrases and key questions to ask, and a little bit of practice as well for you, because in each unit, you will get a small practice session or piece of homework that you can do. I also wanted to mention that this unit will be broken up into two parts because it is quite a long first unit. So it will be broken up into two parts. So first impressions, right? As my grandfather told me when I was young, we never get a second chance to make a first impression. It's always better to be overdressed than underdressed and never leave somebody waiting. The picture on the right is a recent picture of myself hosting a graduation event for my students at the university, and I was honored to be the MC for that event and that day. And let me tell you, that was a great insight, meeting new people and also trying to create a great first impression for myself. And luckily, I was able to build up some new business contacts and also get some business from that event as well, which is really, really great to hear. The last point I want to draw your attention to, which is never leave somebody waiting. This is a key point that I want to share, excuse me, a little story with you. And that goes back to my second job when I was living in Ireland. I heard an incredible story about a meeting that was due to happen, but never did. And here's why. The story goes that the CEO of the company was due to meet a very high-profile client from the Middle East. And on that day, the Middle Eastern client arrived at the office and was greeted by the secretary and told to wait in the waiting room. And unfortunately for the CEO, he was late. He was actually 20 minutes late for this meeting. What happened? Can you guess? Actually, the Middle Eastern client told the secretary after 20 minutes, he said, "This meeting's cancelled. I'm not going to wait any longer." So that just goes to show that A, time is money. And it also showed a lack of respect from the CEO of the company that I was working for at the time for his clients and customers and how he valued them and their time. So the moral or the lesson of this story is don't be late, because when we're late, it's a disrespectful act on somebody else's time and how we value their cooperation and their business, basically. So what happened? Well, the deal never went through. The Middle Eastern client went back home and the deal never happened, which is a real shame. So that's a key point to note here. Do not be late. Again, looking at first impressions, the key things to remember is that we only really have 3 seconds. Whether we like it or not, we are being judged all the time. People see and meet different versions of ourselves at different times in our lives. Yes, we can't always be on our best outlook and our best behavior all the time, but it's something to keep in mind. And in business, first impressions are key to building positive and effective relationships. So let's take a closer look at how we should actually greet people. What I want you guys to do here is have a look at these different options. Look at these different body language elements and tell me, which one do you think is positive? Which one do you think is negative? Take a moment and have a guess. Which ones do you think are positive or negative? We have firm handshake, crossing arms, direct eye contact, slouching posture, a genuine smile, and fidgeting. If you don't know what fidgeting is, it's like moving around, playing with your clothes or your hair or your nails, kind of just not really sitting still or being still. Which ones do you think are positive or negative? All right, let's take a look at the answers and which ones actually are positive and negative. It's clear that a firm handshake is positive. Crossing arms are negative. Why? Because it shows that perhaps maybe I feel uncomfortable, or I don't trust you, or I'm not really sure about this business relationship. Direct eye contact is definitely positive. Slouching posture means perhaps it's sending off a bad signal of perhaps maybe I can't trust this person, or they're lazy, or they don't care about themselves, or they're not confident. A genuine smile is definitely positive, and fidgeting is, of course, negative. So don't do it. But a question I get asked a lot from students, and that is, well, teacher, how do we actually make a good first impression? Because I'm so used to just saying, hi, how are you? I'm fine, thank you. And you? I'm also fine, thank you. And then that's the end of the conversation. So how do we make a good first impression and allow the conversation to flow? Key things to remember here are that we really need to improve and really master this non-verbal communication. Non-verbal means I'm not actually speaking, but it's how I look. So what we should do is stand tall with our shoulders back, make appropriate eye contact, offer that firm handshake, and also try to project confidence through our posture and how we look. For example, a sample dialogue might be something like, "Oh, I noticed you made such a positive impression on the client yesterday. Thanks. I made sure to maintain good eye contact and kept my posture confident but relaxed." Body language speaks before words do. That's also key to remember. The next thing is that we should obviously be punctual and prepared. Like the story I just said, don't be late. Arrive 5 to 10 minutes early. Research the meeting or company beforehand. Prepare relevant materials and have thoughtful questions ready. In terms of a sample conversation, it might go something like this. How did your meeting go with the investors? Very well. I arrived early, had my presentation ready, and researched their recent investments. They were impressed that I could connect our proposal to their existing portfolio. The third one then is to practice active listening. Excuse me. We should make eye contact while others speak, nod occasionally to show engagement, like, yes, I understand. Ask insightful follow-up questions and avoid interrupting if we can. For example, you might say something like, oh, what did you do differently in today's client meeting? They seemed very responsive. Well, I focused on truly listening instead of just waiting for my turn to speak. When I asked questions based on what they said, they noticed I was genuinely interested in their needs. This is a key problem that a lot of people make. They wait for their turn to speak without actually listening to what the client wants or needs. So again, really try to actively listen. Number 4 is to dress appropriately for the context. As I mentioned at the start, it's better to be overdressed than underdressed. So firstly, match or slightly exceed the setting's formality. Research the company beforehand. What's the culture like there? Ensure that your clothes are clean and well maintained. All right, there's so many times that people will go to an interview or even to a wedding or perhaps maybe to meetings, and you can tell, even just by looking at their shoes or their pants or how they dress, that they just really looks like they haven't cared to dress appropriately for the occasion. So do pay attention to those grooming details. Make sure your hair is well presented, whether if you have a beard or if you're a woman, make sure your hair is neatly positioned or placed. And so a sample dialogue might look something like, you seem to fit right in during the meeting with that tech startup. Well, yeah, I checked their company photos online before going. Their team dresses business casual. So I went with a polished but not overly formal look. It helped establish rapport quickly. Rapport here is the same as connection. You're trying to establish or build connection as quickly as possible. And that comes down to networking. And we'll look a little bit more at networking in the second half of this unit. But again, remember, always do a little bit of research into the company. Look at their recent events. How did their staff dress at recent events and pictures? With social media, there's no excuse for checking how they dress. But again, always better to overdress than underdress. It also makes us feel confident as well, right? It definitely makes us feel confident. When we look good, we feel confident. It means that we have a good chance of performing and also, I guess, allowing people to believe in us and our values and what we have to share and say. And finally, remember and use their names. Repeat names when introduced. Use memory techniques if needed. I'll share that on the next slide. Address people by name in conversation. So for example, you might say, oh, Michael, tell me about that time you said you were, studying abroad. How did that go for you? Wow, that's really interesting, Michael. I had no idea. So again, try to repeat their names and address them in the conversation and use their names when saying goodbye. Bye, Michael. I appreciate your time today. Cheers. Something like that is really simple. But let's take a look at the sample dialogue. The department head seemed quite impressed with your presentation. Well, I made sure to address Ms. Chen by name throughout our discussion. When people hear their name, they feel acknowledged and valued. It's absolutely true. It's 100% true. Let's take a look at a memory technique or tip I'd love to share with you. So it's called the triple association method. Sounds very confusing. Don't worry, it's not. All you have to do is that when you meet someone, straight away or immediately use their name in your response. Nice to meet you, Sarah. Nice to meet you, Kevin. Lovely to meet you, Michael. Right? Boom. That's your first step. The second is to create a visual image that connects to their name. So let's say Sarah. Here we have Sarah. Sarah's wearing a blue necklace. Okay, Sarah's wearing a blue necklace. Blue necklace. So we've created that visual image. Finally, we connect their name with a special feature. Sarah's sparkling eyes. Sarah with the sparkling eyes. So now we have Sarah with the blue necklace and the sparkling eyes. So we're connecting and creating an image to build up on Sarah's name. Anything that will help us to remember that person, do it and use it. So have a look at this memory tip and try it the next time you meet somebody new for the first time. Let me know how it goes. Drop me an email, send me a line message and say, hey, I tried this method and it worked well, or I tried it and it didn't quite work well because of what? So let me know. I'm really interested to see if you find that it works for you, because I've tried it before and it works for me. So it's what I like to share with my students. Let's take a look at the sample dialogue of this memory tip. I always forget names at networking events. It's embarrassing. This is actually what my students say to me. And this is what I say. Try the triple association method. When I met our client Michael yesterday, I immediately said, great presentation, Michael. Then I noticed his memorable mustache and thought, Michael with the mustache. I even pictured him riding a motorcycle since it starts with M, like his name. Now I won't forget him. So again, you see how we've created that image. We've also connected something special to him that allows us to remember him even more. Excellent. Now let's take a look at some business introductions. What I want you to do is I want you to complete these blanks by filling in the spaces or the gaps with words that are connected to you and your current situation right now. These can be taken and used in your own daily lives. So have a go and try and put your name and put your job title into these sentences. Again, each one may not be detailed or specific to you, but I've given you a few that you can take and use in your everyday situations. D here is what I've picked. Michael, I'm Dino. It's great to finally meet you in person. I know we've had contact via email for quite some time. How was your flight here? A really nice, clean, simple business introduction. It's not overly formal. It's not too casual. It's just right. And it allows for a great opening conversation. So give that a go. Again, you can use questions like this. What brings you to this event? If it's a bit more formal, you might be involved in customer service. This is a good one to use. How can I be of assistance today? So these are really nice, useful, and effective business introductions that you can use. Now, a question that I get asked all the time from my students in first impressions, in a networking and in small talk topics, the question is, teacher, what is the difference between how do you do versus what do you do? The key part here is how do you do is asking the question of how someone is. It's just like saying, how are you? But it is quite formal and not always used all the time. So for example, we might see it being used in perhaps maybe very formal or legal speaking conversation, or even perhaps in TV shows or movies. How do you do? Can be seen as quite a formal register to use. Or what do you do? The famous question that people will ask all the time, what do you do? Or the longer question, which is, what do you do for a living? Which means, what is your job, right? What is your job? So it's a very common question. There are other ways that you can ask what somebody does for a living. You might say something like, oh, what do you do for work? Or another one might be something like, what do you do in your spare time? If you're trying to change the topic of conversation away from work, you could say something like, what do you do in your spare time? But in this situation, what do you do means, what do you do for work? So that's the slight difference. And I wanted to put that in because it's a mistake that some, or sometimes even a lot of students might make. How do you do versus what do you do? Moving on. Another question that I get asked is, how do you actually greet somebody? Do you bow? Do you say hi? Do you wave your hand? Do you nod? Do you shake their hand and introduce yourself? Do you kiss them on the cheek? Do you kiss them on both cheeks? How do I actually greet someone? The answer, well, it really depends on where we are in the world. However, there is a general rule of thumb, and that is a firm handshake. It really goes a long way. So the next time you're not sure what to do, always put your hand out for a handshake. and make sure your handshake is firm. As you'll notice in the additional materials that I've provided, I've given you a topic on the handshake, and that goes into a little bit more detail about how to actually shake someone's hand. So keep an eye on that, read that, follow the activities and exercises that I've given you after that, and let me know how it goes for you. I've also included the audio file for that as well. So for those extra and additional materials for each unit, I recommend you listen to the audio while you are reading the text. It really helps. Now I want you to match this greeting custom with the country. So we're looking at different countries because every country is different. How exactly do you greet somebody in these countries? What do you think? Have a guess. All right, let's take a look at some answers then. So bowing is very common in Japan. A cheek kiss is very common in France. A namaste gesture in India, also in Thailand. A nose touch is very common in New Zealand. And a hand on heart is also very common in the UAE. But these are all different, right? So again, that's why I'm suggesting the rule of thumb, or the general rule, is to have a firm handshake. Now let's take a look at some of these common mistakes that we see in introductions. People might say, "Hi, I'm John. I'm working in sales." What do you think it might be? Doesn't sound quite right, does it? Have a think. The next one, "Hello, my name is Sarah. I'm account manager." Doesn't sound quite right, does it? Sounds like something might be missing. What do we think? C, "Good morning, I'm Mr. Thompson from HR department." Again, sounds like something's missing, right? D, "Hey guys, Bob here. I do marketing stuff." These really don't sound quite right, do they? So let's take a look at what the answers really should be. What we should be saying is, "Hi, I'm John. I work in sales." "Hello, my name is Sarah. I'm an account manager." Again, these are only small little changes, but to the native speaker's ear, we can hear the difference. So if you're really at that level where you want to improve and excel, making these small mistakes and cutting them out of your speaking, you'll notice a huge difference. C is, "Good morning, I'm Mr. Thompson from the HR department." And D, "Hello, I'm Bob. I work in marketing." It's much better than just saying, "Oh, I do marketing stuff." It's too casual. Moving on, we'll take a look at what exactly you should do when you meet somebody. How do you follow up when you meet somebody? Do you just take their business card and go home, throw it in the bin? No. Let's take a look at what you really should be doing to create that good first impression. So I want you guys to put these in order. Have a look and think, which one should we put in the correct order? Have a look. Send a connection request on LinkedIn, write a thank you email, add their contact to your database, schedule a follow-up meeting, make notes about the person in your conversation. Which one is it going to be? Let's take a look. The first thing you should do is make notes about the person and the conversation you had. That way it'll help you remember key things that you can write in your email. But the second thing, you should add their contact to your database. Write a thank you email, send a connection request on LinkedIn, and schedule a follow-up meeting if it's appropriate. If they don't live in your city or in your country, perhaps maybe consider doing it online. So that's pretty much it for Unit 1, Part 1. Next up, we'll be looking at Part 2, where we'll take a closer look at networking and what exactly we should and should not be saying in small talk conversations. Thank you so much for this first unit, Part 1. Join me very shortly for Part 2, networking.